Welcome to the show, everybody. How are you today? How's your week coming along? It's Tuesday, so we're almost to the halfway point. But either way, did you wake up with a smile on your face? Are you smiling now? I hope you are. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I hope something happened to you today that was wonderful. I do want to just say rest in peace, uh, Godfrey, or what's his name? I'm sorry. Now, hold on. Give me one sec, because it's gonna bug me. Uh, I have the word Lago in my head. Gilbert Godfrey. Yeah, he sadly passed away. Hilarious man. He will be missed. I don't know if you caught his reading of 50 Shades of Grey. It is absolutely hilarious. But Gilbert, uh, I'm sure you just wanted to go hang out with Norm because you missed him. So just giving a little shout out to that wonderful guy, Gilbert Godfrey. He's hilarious. But today I've got a great set of guests. It's actually two guests, not just one. The MythInformed Milwaukee guys, and I'm looking forward to chatting with them because, they're doing a good job of bringing together people, like-minded people that are trying to fight against this tide of, I don't want to necessarily just say woke, but this shift in society that's happening, and we need more people like it. So without further ado, welcome Sean and Brian to the show. Hello, guys.
Hey, Adam. Thanks
Hey,
for
Adam.
having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Definitely.
Sad about Gilbert Gottfried. That guy. So the funny thing is, like, a lot of people remember him. He was the parrot from Aladdin, right?
Yeah.
And
Lago.
but most, so he's like child friendly in Disney or whatever. But most people have no idea that guy would just like slay on stage. Like he would go.
Yeah.
He would say the craziest shit. Like Norm went Norm went hard, but like Gilbert Gottfried was
Vicious.
Vicious. Yeah. It's sad.
And then them two together, I mean, my goodness.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he had a freaking potty mouth on him. Boy, did that guy his if you don't know his actual comedy stuff, go do yourself a favor and check it out, cuz man, that guy's hilarious. I was watching the Real BBC earlier on Az's channel, and they played a couple clips that I hadn't seen before. And it's
shocking. Like seriously, if
crazy.
people if we put those clips up online, we would get banned immediately. Like
oh yeah. Well, they played it on the show, and I'm like, oh man,
wow,
like
this
is kind of
it was a
racy.
different time. It was a
What was your favorite one? Like, what was your favorite one?
Of his?
Yeah.
Oh God. Oh man.
I was when I heard him reading 50 Shades of, that's why I said 50 Shades of Grey, when he was reading that, and he,
like as prose, like without.
Hold on, let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, he would just go up and do other people's bits, but like in his voice, or he'll just go up and say nonsense, but he like screams and yells at the audience, and everyone. It's just so funny. Like it's just like something you don't expect it when you think Gilbert Gottfried.
Here
you think
it is.
of the parrot from Disney.
This is my favorite one.
Audible.com presents 50 Shades of Grey, the erotic best-selling novel read by Gilbert Gottfried.
My inner goddess has stopped dancing and is staring too, open-mouthed and drooling slightly.
Hear it the way it was meant to be heard.
Keep still, he orders, and slowly he inserts his thumb inside me, rotating it around and around, stroking the front wall of my vagina.
This is actually quite long. It goes on.
Well, that would be impressive. A great SNL bit. If like Saturday Night Live had their stuff together, that would be a fantastic bit.
Well, they don't do comedy anymore, do they?
No.
Isn't it just activism now?
It's like activism, and they have these new Gen Z writers, and you can kind of see like the influence of it, and so they're taking shots at woke, but they're extremely woke at the same time, which is really, really interesting. Actually, Bill Maher just went after him on Rogan today, which I thought was interesting because obviously Bill, is in Hollywood too, so yeah. Saturday Night Live is completely woke.
You got to go to Saudi Arabia to get good comedy television now.
Speaking of which.
Yeah. So my question is, okay, so did they do blackface there?
What is the SJW crowd gonna go cancel them?
Yeah.
I mean,
you're
gonna go to Riyadh.
Yeah. Good luck. Go have fun trying to cancel them out there.
That's funny. Yeah.
It's better than anything SNL has put out in the past 10 years. Maybe
true.
more. I don't remember the last funny thing they did.
It's a little reminder of like Chevy Chase when he used to do like Gerald Ford. Like he would always fall down. You know, they'd always joke about the president, but I don't know.
Yeah.
They have to go weak on Biden.
Yeah, that's the thing. They've totally held back on Biden. Like, yeah, they are ribbing him for being old and senile, but yeah, none of the Hunter Biden stuff has come up. Like that, you know, if that was Trump and Donald Trump Jr., oh my God, man. They'd be running that like crazy.
Yeah. He talks about it too. I mean, he's still, and it's crazy. The reply people from Trump just went to his son. And he talks about, he's like, imagine if I did any of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, I will never show those images that I've seen that's on that laptop, but my goodness, is it sickening that, I mean, and then, all right, so that aside, like the sick images that are, that involve children and Hunter Biden aside.
Okay.
The connection with the president is very frightening, right?
Yep.
Because if it was only these images, it's like, all right, he's just a sick man, like a mentally sick man, clearly, and disgusting as well. I just to throw that in there. But the connections with the actual sitting president when he was vice president and now he's president. It's like, okay, so are we compromised? Do you think he's compromised? Honest question.
Oh, I think all of them are compromised to a point. I mean, you could see how the government's bought and paid for by certain industries. And obviously he got a really nice deal in Ukraine. I remember when that story broke, that was crazy. It's like before the election, I remember talking to Jack Posobiec had a copy, and he actually offered it to CNN. He offered it to all the major news outlets. And obviously no one covered it, but
it's Russian disinformation. So.
Yeah, they call it Russian disinformation, right? And
experts say,
right. And you started seeing this image, the images coming out and the information coming out. It's like, okay, I could maybe buy that Russians like hacked it, and like, but Russian disinformation never made any sense, And
no, there were actual pictures of him in those that they were him. In all these different pictures, like, where's the disinformation in those images? Are you telling me all of these images are deep fake when he's been on interviews talking about smoking cheese, and then like, I don't know, I was just so messed up at the time. It could be my laptop. It might not be my laptop. I don't know. I was too far gone. Like, oh, great. You're really helping the case.
Well, I think that was a big red pill moment for a lot of people. I think that after seeing that come out, like Jack's been completely exonerated. Like he was like, and the media still has not accepted his offer. Maybe Joe Rogan, maybe Joe will have him on and be like, hey, you had this, what was in this, blah, blah, blah. Cause this come up on Joe's show before. But yeah, just seeing that. And then also, I know we can't say it, but the thing that rhymes with slab sleary. I think that was a really big red pill moment for people too, because like even Jon Stewart, who is now woke, was like, hey, why can't we talk about this?
Yeah, I don't know if they've got anything like, when they were talking about the P tape when they had on Trump. I don't think that they're going to have necessarily these huge embarrassing photos of Biden or something, but he's caught up in a lot of corruption. And when you're a powerful person like this, like, you have other powerful people that you're working with. Like, no person's an island. So many people are caught up in this. Is like you're paralyzed even if you do want to like come clean, because so many people are going to go down with you. I mean, the fact that Ukraine from 2014 to 2019 has donated more money like to American politicians than any country has in any 5-year period. I mean, that's wow. You know, I'm sure they're above board. I mean, this kind of buying of influence is wild. And to want to get into a soft civil war that's been going on since 2014, really, you know, and with all of this money corruption, it makes me think, okay, no, I don't think that these things are genuine. I think that you find videos online of real tragedies and people suffering, and then you just try to rip people up and say, yeah, this is why we need a certain result.
I think there's a certain part of, some of its own. Like if you do something stupid, okay, yeah, you're gonna have to take shit for it, right? But I think what was happening with Trump, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I saw the grab him by the video and like blast it on the media, just like everywhere. And and then you have this Hunter Biden story and they completely ignore it. So it's like,
or Tara Reid, where Joe Biden
Tara Reid
literally did grab her. Like Trump was just talking it. Biden did it. He did it.
Right.
And my goodness, crickets from the media, because they're all in
but then they'll say camp. It's just Hunter. Everybody's got a no good alcoholic, drug addicted son. It has nothing to do with
Joe. But if Joe came out and said that, I'd have more respect. Just be like, look, this guy,
he almost did.
Piece of shit.
Remember when he was like, yeah, everyone's got that, anyone can be compromised by images, and we all know somebody who's been, has compromised photos on the internet, and it's like, who are you? Who do you know? Are you admitting that that those pictures of your son are compromising images of him? Because like, what else could he? Why would he even say that? What is he talking about? He's obviously talking about his son.
Yeah, he is. But just like the money trail of corruption. I mean, Joe Biden, he doesn't seem to me like a principled politician. He just goes which way the wind's blowing. His first act as senator was to condemn Richard Nixon pulling out of Vietnam.
Yep.
So that seems weird. And
even
the 94 crime bill, now he's against it.
The one of the first interviews that he was in when he joined the Senate, someone asked him, like, what do we do about the corrupt politicians? And his response was, don't be so sure I'm not corrupt. It's
That's right.
What? You don't say that. So he's got his entire career of saying the quiet part out loud and it being true.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, so now think about all the other stuff. It's like, salute the Marines. Well, why would you say that? Why would you say salute the Marines? Unless someone told you to salute the Marines, and then cue up Obama's interview where he's like, I would just love to be in sweatpants in a basement and just have, somebody have an earpiece in and I could just tell him what to do. I think that man's still calling the shots. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, then there's that 2009 video of Biden saying how important that it was to not have like this quick haphazard pullout in Afghanistan.
Oh yeah.
So again, this is a person that is just flied by the seat of his pants. That was a good thing to say at the time. It had the political. He was right in the right winds. He's tacking. He was finding the wind.
Well, that's Trump's fault, though. It's because Trump wanted to pull out of Afghanistan. That's why he left the billions of dollars of equipment and billions and billions of dollars of equipment. Just send it to Ukraine, guys. Please do us a favor. Just send it over there.
Yeah,
I've the meme floating around.
I know we're not supposed to talk about the election, but I do think like one aspect of it is I always kind of think to myself, what if Trump would have won? Because the way the Biden administration handled COVID was horrible. Like it was
I think they both handled it terribly. I think Trump handled it horribly too.
Do you think we would have stayed locked down though? Under Trump
had a really bad he trusts the wrong people. He throws his weight around and he loves being, he is narcissistic. He loves being liked by everyone, and I don't
even Maggie Haberman,
there's a huge flaw in that though, because who gives a shit if people like you? Do what's right. And he made a lot of mistakes in that. And I think that a lot of the reasons that we locked down is because he wasn't more against it. He should have been. You know, he kind of let it happen, and because he wanted to maintain this look of, I know what I'm doing the right thing. And I mean, he was calling out certain medicines that actually turn out to be true, like they actually do work. Not gonna say them.
after was it Regeneron? Was it Regeneron? After they gave him Regeneron, I was like, wait, the president just took this. Why isn't this like a multi-billion-dollar operation? Why aren't we giving other people this drug? Like, it didn't make any sense to me. I'm like, it was, but they wanted the vaccine. The Biden administration wanted the vaccine. That's why I think it's interesting. Like, if Trump actually did get elected, I personally think he would have opened up. He would have said, "No, we're not doing this."
But we weren't locked down nationally, though. It was like we locked down nationally initially, but then it was the governor's choices. There were some states that were pretty wide open.
That's true, but most states stayed locked down. I mean, how many restaurants went out of business? It was like something like 70% of restaurants are not going to come back because of the lockdowns.
But he gave it the imprimatur, the first lockdown. So, Adam, did you read the book, Scott Atlas's book, Plague Upon Our House?
Mm-mm.
It's that's Dr. Scott Atlas from Stanford. He's one of the doctors that came in to kind of help the Trump advisory committee during the pandemic. So he was in these monthly or weekly or daily COVID huddles that they would have at the White House. And sometimes like Dr. Fauci was in on, sometimes Dr. Birx, but quickly, like he ran afoul of Fauci and Birx. And what Scott Atlas is saying, he said Trump had the instinct to not lock down, that he didn't want to do it. He didn't think it was a good idea, but he allowed himself to be talked into it. And what Atlas argues in his book is that it's in the middle of election year. The whole thing would have been different if this would have hit in 19 instead of 2020. And they were so worried to like go against Fauci and Birx because they felt, at least the team felt, they got too big of a thing. We can't do it. But Atlas was saying, look, you're saying one thing, your teams is saying another thing, and Fauci and Birx are saying a different thing. People are confused. And I agree with you. I think that's where he mismanaged it. You have to get everyone on the same page. So either Atlas has got to go and you go all with Fauci, or you get Fauci out of there and just take Atlas's messaging and go with that.
Now that's something I would like. What if he actually fired Fauci right away?
Yeah.
Like that's something I'd like to entertain, because that would have changed a lot.
I think so.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it would have helped. He was gambling on that, but sometimes when you have a popular figure, and yes, Fauci did have a certain amount of popularity, even among Republicans, and certainly Birx did too. So if that would have been a game changer, who knows what happened? And but if he would have had consistent messaging, Will Chamberlain told me when I saw him once, he goes, the reason why he lost white men is he felt like there was a lot of elderly people, a lot of elderly white men, and that thought, he's not, I'm scared. This is potentially dangerous, and he's not taking it seriously because there's mixed messages. That's the demographic he lost.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, and then so to bring up the laptop now, like that's why that would have probably made a huge shift back in his favor if the internet, I say the internet, but
social media,
the mainstream
and the corporate media,
flow of the narrative. If they were to have said, holy crap, like, look at this, this is crazy. They smothered it because they knew that it would make a big difference. And you mentioned, Brian, following the money. It's like we have a huge contingent of these senators, all with children, on boards of gas companies in Ukraine, which it came out recently that there's actually 2 huge pockets of gas, like huge oil reserves in Ukraine. Like that's new. And their natural gas off the coast of Crimea is also new, but they don't have the infrastructure to build it. So it's going to be built, and then they're going to start banking off of it. So why wouldn't they want to get in when, at the ground floor, which is exactly what they were doing.
Yep. But you need the right political people.
Correct.
You need your people in there. And this is where that metabiota piece comes in. You have a pandemic, a modeling company that models pandemics. And then, they're emailing Hunter Biden. They're saying, hey, we've got some influence in, what happens in Ukraine. And you're like, Okay, that's a weird thing for like a pandemic modeling company to have. So all of this, yes, it's tied together. They're having their people. Everyone like wants to be buddies with the dictator of some mineral rich company. So he sells to you and cuts out the other guy.
Well, and look at like the whole board of the government of Ukraine. They're all actors. Every single one of them. They're all they were all friends. They were in a movie. My friend Andreas was telling me about there's a sitcom that recently came out in Ukraine, and I'm not recently, like this year, like 2019, where let me just read what he said. He kind of gave me a little bit of a breakdown. This is crazy, and I really want to watch this because he's actually translating it. It's essentially Zelensky stars in it. All right. Okay. It's essentially like January 6th.
When's this from? Like, when was it made?
2019, 2018, 2019. Let's see. I got to scroll back a little bit. It's called Servant of the People. All right. It was formed in late 2017 and was officially registered March 2018 on the basis of the previously unregistered Party of Divisive Changes. Oh, this is the TV series. The party is named after the Ukrainian TV series Servant of the People. So they named their own party after the TV show. In the let's see here. Okay, so the Servant of the People, here's the description of the show, is a Ukrainian political satire comedy television series created and produced by Volodymyr Zelensky, who stars as Vasily Petrovich, another long Ukrainian last name, a high school history teacher in his 30s who is unexpectedly elected president of Ukraine after a viral video filmed by one of his students shows him making a profane rant against the government corruption in his country. The series ran for 3 seasons. He says, this is my friend telling me now. He said, this show is the absolute gnarliest propaganda predictive programming. Literally everything is happening has been in the show. It's blowing my mind. I have to see it. I have to see it. Season 1 is on Netflix, as he says. Netflix has season 1, he says. So it's called Servant of the People. But, so step back a little bit. It's like there's this propaganda piece that they did, kind of predicting that he was going to become president, showing that, it reminds me of Stacey Abrams being the president of Earth in this new Star Trek Discovery. They're trying to portray she can be a leader. Like, look, see, she's a leader. And it's like, I don't know. I don't trust any of that. I don't want any actors unless they've proven themselves. Like Matthew McConaughey has, if you listen to him speak about certain issues, he's very knowledgeable about things. So he's running for, or I don't know if he's running for governor anymore, but he kind of thought about it. Mm-hmm. He's probably going to. I wouldn't be surprised. But he's not an idiot. He speaks from the heart. He's very aware. So I'm like, I can get behind that. He's very libertarian in many ways, and I like that about him. But this guy Zelensky, like, I don't trust any of this. Someone just said optics. It's all optics. Exactly. Yeah. I know. That's it. Yeah. It's all about the optics.
Yeah. And this is why Hollywood is as influential as it is. I mean, the funny thing is, we give Zelensky crap, but I mean, honestly, Ronald Reagan was in Hollywood.
True.
Donald Trump.
That was before my time, though. The Reagan thing
was a reality star. There's this
true Trump. Look at Trump.
Yeah, yep. Trump was reality. I mean, Trump killed it in the reality scene. Like, he was the man. Like, people, like, that show was great. Dennis Rodman looked crazy on it. I mean, they had all kind of like viral moments in it before viral was a thing. But yeah, I mean, there's this power with like Hollywood and celebrity and fame that people are attracted to, and it's I mean, look at all the movies that have come out and look how they're influencing culture. And I think it's smart, like the Disney thing's gotten really creepy because Disney influences kids. Like,
true.
Like, as a kid, like, that was the thing. Like, we watched the Disney movies, and they have this huge cultural influence over kids, and to see them go this far radical, it's like, oof, pump the brakes. But
don't you think they're losing that hold on society, on culture? It feels like it.
I think so, but I mean, you saw Will Smith. He slapped Chris Rock and nothing happened to him because Will Smith is.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I think the fallout has yet to finish happening. I think, that he's been banned, whatever that means. People are calling, they try to get him to leave. I mean, it only made him look terrible, and
look bad.
we don't really know, how much it's going to affect his career.
Yeah.
I lost my respect for him. Like, I really like Will Smith. Like, I grew up watching him on Fresh Prince, and I liked that show, even though I didn't visually look like anybody on the show, because I can still relate, even though that's what they're trying to push right now, which is absolutely insane.
Well, but there's still for the vast majority of our population still consumes, that kind of material, that kind of content. And, you do have actors that have huge fan bases. You have, movie or music stars that have those huge fan bases, and it's extremely influential. Now, I think we're getting to a point now where people don't want to hear their politics.
They don't want to be lectured.
Yes. Yeah. They don't want to be lectured. So so you have to have mass appeal. And I think the smart ones are staying out of politics, which is really, really good. But someone that's just been a champion has been J.K. Rowling. She is.
Mm-hmm.
So she's using it, her fame, for the inverse, to kind of go after the mass formation or planned wokeness that Hollywood's in. But yeah, I think she doesn't get enough credit because, so there's two sides of it. She's a billionaire. She doesn't have to worry about shit. Right.
Right.
But credibility, her reputation, she's going pretty hardcore and she's not backing down. So I think there's something.
And she catered to them a little bit.
She did.
Let me just preface this by saying I've never seen or read any Harry Potter anything. So I don't know. I know about Dumbledore. I think that's who she made gay retroactively, and it's
right.
What was the point of that? Why? Why would you need to announce that? Just to appease that group? What other reason?
I don't know. So my wife is seen all the movies, read all the books, so vicariously through her, I've experienced this as well. And I was giving her shit. I was like, hey, why did J.K. Rowling do this all of a sudden? And when she was explaining to me, she's like, look, no, Dumbledore's he's always been gay. It's a whole thing, and there's stories built on it or whatever. So I don't know. It was a tough one for me to be like, did she do this retroactively or not? It's kind of like the Wachowski sisters and Matrix.
Yeah.
Did they say, okay, this is about trans after?
Definitely they did.
Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Was it?
Yeah, they jumped on that bandwagon. They're like, oh, this is kind of the hot new topic. We're trans.
Yeah.
And Matrix is all about being trans, and then that whole community was like, dope. Oh, we got our Anthem movie now. And I was like, no, it's about taking the red pill is opening your mind to the truth, the reality of life. You can't change that. Matrix is one of my favorite movies. I went to see it a couple times in the theater. When it came out, I was blown away as a kid.
Yeah.
So it's
yeah, and
all right.
The weirder thing with them too, it's the new one
oh gosh,
wasn't horribly woke. There were a couple scenes obviously I think trans rights came up at one point.
There was I don't know if I agree with you there. I think it was more on the woke side than the not woke side. The non-binary conversation about you know what I'm talking about, where she goes on this little riff about being non-binary and having the social pressures of needing to fit in, and it's why the hell did you even need to say any of that?
Really?
Oh my gosh.
Did you go to the bathroom at that point, Sean?
No. I watched it a couple of times. I was looking at it because Fritz was making a big deal. He was oh, it's super woke, and I'm watching it. And, I was trying to be not critical. So obviously, I'm a huge Matrix fan too. Keanu Reeves can do nothing wrong.
Yeah,
but
except for being in a Matrix 4. I'm sorry. I think it was horrible. It's when she first meets the new Morpheus in
digital Morpheus.
Yeah, when she first goes into his original apartment, she's like, "Whoa, I know this place. and then the new Morpheus is like, I'm the new Morpheus or whatever. Or I don't even know if he knew who he was at that moment. It was a weird thing, but
yeah.
When Morpheus or when Neo says to Trinity, I never believed I was the one, and then it turned out spoilers, sorry, people, if whatever, it's a little late for that. when she turns to him and says, I never believed I was the one, and then she's the one who turns out to be the one, and it's like, so they're both the one. So it's like you basically are canceling all of the original movies by changing it completely, and it's like, what was the point of that?
Yeah.
Well, the Catholics just saw that with the Trinity.
Mm.
Three is one.
That was definitely one part of the story where I was like, why did they have to make Trinity a one also? Like, what is this going to be like a Super Saiyan thing now? Because it's like, it's completely different from the one who was supposed to come and save humanity and then die, and kind of the Jesus story, like the resurrecting, hero archetype. And now she's one too.
So we get lectured about being non-binary from the short-haired, the classic lesbian-looking female character in almost every SJW movie, and then by the end they say, oh, the one power is actually binary because it's male and female and both, and it's like, so well, which is it? Do you want to adhere to social pressures of binary, non-binary? It's
where were the blogs like in the late 90s and early 2000s that were saying, oh my God, this is a great representation of trans? Like, didn't see them. Did they exist? This is just a later interpretation of this because the culture's changed and it's still a good movie.
So let me ask you guys about this trans movement. Why is it so prevalent now? What happened that made it ramp up? What is it? What's going on with it? I'm curious. I have my own opinions on it, but I want to hear yours.
It's cool right now. Like when you have this role that we're doing with, like, critical theory is in, and critical theory is all about oppressed and oppressor. Sure. So if you have oppressed and oppressor class, well, then you have it for everything. And for gender, it's, did you have man oppress woman, straight oppress gay, but now you have this idea of cis oppressing trans.
Yeah.
So and now this is a group that's in the 99.9 percentile. Like, well, geez, I don't want to be an oppressor. So it's pretty easy. Like, well, maybe I don't want to do hormones. I'm not going to switch my orientation. It'd be pretty damn easy to say I'm just non-binary.
Yeah.
No, and you don't have to prove it. All you have to do is feel a little quirky, and you can feel that. Like, nobody feels like anyone fully understands them, especially not when you're a kid too. So it'd be really easy to think. And now you've got adults, people in power that are making sense, that are looking out for you. Scientists are saying, yeah, this is real. That'd be easy to buy if you're 16. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a couple things happening. I think Brian's right. Yeah, it is. Especially, if you're a kid and you want to, be a part of like the in-group type of thing. So I'm sure there's some of that going on. But I think most people personally don't care if you want to be trans. If you want to be trans, that's cool. No one really has an issue with that. It's when you start getting into some of the sports, the stuff around sports.
Or teaching
kids at a very young age, because we know how so that
the trans toddler, is that a thing?
No, there's no such thing as a trans child. Period.
Right. There was someone just recently, I think one of the videos we put up, someone was talking about their trans 4-year-old. And it's like, man, like at 4, I think that's where they're losing a lot of public support. The woke, the more radical version of this. Because like I said, I think most people meet you in the middle and say, fine, if you want to be trans, you're trans. If someone's a zebra, I don't care. We don't need to teach kids it, and we need to keep it out of traditional things like the sports where, someone would have a huge advantage over someone that can hurt someone.
Yep. Yeah. Right. Fallon Fox cracked someone's, I don't remember who he was facing, but identified as a female and ruptured the person's skull. She could have died. She's lucky to be alive, and it's like, that's because it's a dude fighting a girl. Like it's as simple as that. Like Will Thomas is competing against women, and he's got a very strong advantage. And they're like, well, he came in 4th in this race, and it's like, yeah, well, he also was like ranked 480 out of like the top men, so he wasn't even that good of a men's swimmer. So okay, sure.
And did you see that race where he wins by like 38 seconds?
Yeah.
And you know what I think happened? Like, because Thomas is trying to like win by a few seconds. I think forgot what lap he's on. And because it looks like they're going to win. And then everybody else, like, it looks like he's maybe a couple seconds ahead of the next, but then every girl does another lap and then comes back and then they clap when the real winner. And I'm like, the only way you screw that up is if you lost count of laps. So that's my conspiracy theory in that.
That wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, and it's like I said, I think most people meet you in the middle, though. I think that's where they're going to lose a lot of popular support. So it's good. Like, I think these are the conversations we need to be having. Like,
Agreed.
But what do we do about it? Like, obviously, I'm for independence and freedom, and I think a trans person should be able to compete. Right now, the system just isn't that way. I mean, I've talked to people like kind of in the center left, and one of the ideas they always bring up is something like a trans league.
Sure. Or just a non like anyone can compete in this other league.
Sure.
Exactly.
That's called the men's league. Like, if there's a woman that can compete in the men's league, I'll let her play it.
That's a good point. Like, what's the difference, right? I mean, it only goes in one direction. We don't
always
hear
goes in one direction.
Any men complaining that some woman's coming in and beating them in insert any sport. It doesn't happen. It's only in one direction.
And if they do, they'll respect it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did you guys watch Crowder's new video, the Prove Me Wrong, that's been coming out? He's actually
where he dresses up, where he goes undercover.
No, that's hilarious.
That one was great.
A couple good ones with that one, but no, this one came out last week, and then actually yesterday, the part 3 came out. He sat in University of Texas. I don't remember which university, but the change my mind is biological males shouldn't compete with biological females. Change my mind, and it's glorious. This Huffington Post journalist comes and sits down and is all like, I'm gonna school Crowder. Sits down and he's like, oh, look at this detail that I know. Let me pull up on Google, like 2-second Google, and he gives this information, and Crowder knew exactly what he was referencing, and I'm like, let me see this, and actually that article proves you wrong and Crowder correct, because it's only like 0.08, or I don't remember exactly the amount, but it's like such a small, insignificant number of people. And it's like, now that's not to say that those people aren't deserving to compete in some way, but it's not fair for women out there to compete. It's glorious. You should definitely check it out. That one's
and
good.
It gets confusing, like for kids. Like, you have 206 bones in your body, right? Now that's normal, but it's not uncommon to have, like, say, a double ear bone or there in these. It's uncommon, but it's not so uncommon when you see this, like at hospitals. You'll see people that have 2 arteries where there's supposed to be 1, and so on and so forth. But you don't sit there and say to a sixth grader or a 5th grader that the human body is somewhere between 204 and 218 bones, depending on 5 different permutations. Like, that's ridiculous.
But
we do it with gender.
Mental.
We do it at 5.
It's a mental thing, though. It's like, imagine saying, like, but what do you mentally feel like how many bones are in your body? And it's like, I'm going to think 210. It's like, that's how many you have.
That's
the
how many
doctor
really
was
have.
wrong.
That's my big problem with it. And we host these debates when we're having at our conference a debate specifically. I call it the trans panel, but it's can a man be born in a woman's body is the title of it. But in moderating this, we try to make the questions beforehand so people aren't like jumping in. We try to get a mix of people. But I was talking to the guy who's the progressive on the panel, and we were going through the questions, and he goes, I don't like your framing on this. And I'm like, what don't you like? And he says, well, one of your questions says, does trans ideology harm children? He goes, that's a horribly biased framing. I said, okay, well, what kind of framing would you want? Like, how would you frame this? And he says, how can we best help trans children? And I'm like, okay, that's just as biased the other way. And like,
yeah,
there's going to be somebody
that's
on
more
the
biased
panel that's going to say, is there such a thing as a trans child? And that's the point. So it's important that we get to that. And that's why I think these discussions are good, because right away, like if you have a progressive saying, well, these people don't want to help trans kids, you have to say, look, you need to slow down. We need to first talk about, is there a trans kid? Like, is this fair? Is this to put the onus on them? Imagine if you had to decide your career and you had to lock it in at 12.
God,
you know, would you have said YouTuber, or would, you know, what would you have said? Like, this is ridiculous. And to think
if you lock it in,
go back.
Yeah, exactly. You can't go back.
You can't go back.
You can't go back.
That's it. You're stuck with that career forever.
Or you go back and it's
really
irreversibly damaged. Yeah,
it's really hard.
The detransitioner stories are wild, and
dude, they're
horrifying. A lot of these, they're horrifying, and a lot of them are seem to be very, very mature people who are like, yep, I took part in this, but I wish there were more people that push back, because maybe I wouldn't have made that choice. And that's what I feel like we got to look out for our kids, and it's rather than like preparing them for the road.
Yep.
We seem to everything seems about be able to prepare the road for the kid.
Do you guys know who Billboard Chris is?
Yes, I've heard. Well, I don't know who he is, but I've heard the.
Right, you've heard of him.
Mm-hmm.
He's joining me on Thursday, and he goes around to different universities with just these big billboards that that just say basically simple things like there's no such thing as a trans child, or children cannot consent to body. Whatever, like
a tattoo. You wouldn't let a 10-year-old decide to get a tattoo, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, and you know what? I think you nailed it, Brian. When the first thing you said was, it's cool. Because look at what most kids want, right? They want to feel special.
Yep.
They want to be a part of something. That's easy, right? Everyone does. That doesn't go away from kids to an adults. Everyone wants to feel special. Everyone wants to be a part of something. Look at this article. Check this out. This is teacher says 20 out of 32 fourth grade students. What is that?
Yeah.
11-year-olds? 10-year-olds? I'm not sure. But 20 out of 32?
It's 9. Yeah, probably right.
9 or 10.
9.
Yeah.
That's it. That's impossible.
Well, what it is, it's them all seeing it as this is the cool thing to do, and I'll get praise from the teacher if I do this,
or I can get away with things
I can get away with
it. Or you're confused too. I mean, the thing is, you can't, especially when you're talking about this kid's very young. There's a point where you can do this, like with a 4-year-old, and you take like 6 marbles and you put them out in a line that's like 1 foot long, and then you take 6 marbles and put them in a line that's 2 foot long, and then you ask the kid like, which one has more marbles, and they say it's the long line. But like by the time they're 7, they see through the trick, and they'll be like, no, it's the same. It's just you've spaced them out more, right? They can tell you that kind of abstraction that comes with time. I mean, peekaboo with babies is the same kind of abstraction. Like when you disappear behind the chair, they think you've disappeared. That's why they're so surprised when you go. But it doesn't work at 2 years old because they realize you're just behind the chair. So we're sitting there teaching adult abstract concepts to kids. We don't know what we're doing to screw them up. Like, you know, they could have a completely different conception of gender than you're imagining. Like, no one's considering. This is my problem with progressives. I agree that a lot of them have good hearts, and they're saying, look, I just want to stop bullying. I want to be inclusive, all that. Okay. But nobody gives any care to like, what if my intervention has this terrible unintended consequences?
Right.
They just blow right through it. We'll just do it. Like, I don't know, dude, maybe that gas tank shouldn't have been in the back of the Pinot. Like,
well, the thing
go wrong.
The thing that was like shocking to me, and apparently this was well known, not in my circles, but apparently if kids come out to their teachers and their administrators or principals, the school doesn't have any responsibility to tell the parent and anything.
Yeah.
And, you know, like DeSantis's bill, like which the left actually did a really good job of smearing this. I mean, you know, they say the left can't meme, but the don't say gay bill, like everyone remembered that, even though it has nothing to do with
it. Until everyone just started looking at what the bill actually said.
Right.
And then
but but they
wow.
didn't purposely. I mean, it was at the Oscars where it was Amy Schumer and up there. They're just saying gay, 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 gay. Like none of the Hollywood elite could read a 4-page bill. And the crowd was going nuts. But but that's why I think that's so important, is just to give the parents the power to be like, hey, if my kid says they're, like another gender, can you just clue me in? And maybe like shoot me an email and say, they're going by a different name too. Maybe.
Yeah, the
maybe.
social transition in school without parents' knowledge.
And the schools, they don't have to disclose it. It's bizarre.
Yeah,
I don't think that bill goes far enough. I think K through 3 is just, it's like, yeah, that's fine, but why not just K through 12? Like, no teachers, as my own personal experience, no teachers that I had ever in my entire life of schooling told me about their sex life or who they like to sleep with,
right?
What they identified as. Why are teachers doing this? What is?
They say it in their own words. So one of the pieces that we put out on our Twitter feed was from a concerned parent named Kelly Sky, and she went through a lot of this the gender ideology, like train the trainers stuff. The teachers train the trainers, and they were saying we really need to start talking about gender identity at ages 4 to 5, because otherwise, we got to get to the kids before they're. Otherwise, if it goes too late, to 8 or 9, they're less mutable. Like change, right? Less mutable. True. Like, wow, and that's wild. So right away, that's a huge red flag. And not only that, they wanted to make sure not only were they doing critical race theory and social emotional learning, but they were doing CME, like CSE, which is comprehensive sex education. And part of the idea there was just like CRT. CRT is not a course. It's not a module to complete. It needs to be part of every class. And they wanted this sexual education to be part of every class.
Yep. True. I have this video, and this was from late 2020. Let me see if I can find this really quick. I have so many tabs and stuff. And
I know how it goes.
Yeah.
Here it is. Okay, cool. Let me see. I think I have to save this real quick. Hold on. Let me save that. And then share this. So I don't know if you guys remember this. It was the choir. It was like the San Francisco Gay Man's Choir, right? And now, let me just say, I don't care that they have a gay man's choir. Like, that's fine. Whatever. You guys have your fun. But when you sing songs, here it is.
We're coming for them. We're coming for your children.
Oh, fuck.
Remember that?
No, I don't. I'm seeing this for the first time.
Yeah. I saw this was making the rounds. I missed this when it first came out.
I did not see this.
So that was like 2 years ago. Honestly, I don't remember when it came out, but when I saw it, I was like, whoa, you're coming for your children. Like you're saying, they were like, no, we don't mean it like that. We're just trying to teach them about our ways. And I'm like,
yeah,
that's a joke. This is
they were serious, Brian.
Saying the quiet part out loud, but
that's
in a funny way.
It's fun catching them say the quiet part out loud, because especially those that are more radical like to continue to push the boundaries, and they will continue to try and say the quiet part out loud.
Because they can just say, oh, but like if we don't do this, the kids are going to grow up bigoted because they got bigoted parents. So we're trying to save the kid. You can feel morally justified in this crusade.
And they do. They really do feel like they are morally correct in this. And that's why they're so, when you hear them talk about it, they think they're like professors in understanding gender ideology, and they talk like they are. And, these teachers, I hate the TED Talk stuff. I call it TED Talks. It's like a TED Talk, but on TikTok, where they talk like they know what they're talking about, even though it's all a bunch of jibber jabber nothingness.
So what do you call it? What's your name for it?
TED Talks.
Okay.
Like a TED Talk, but on TikTok. So it's TED Talks. And I can't stand them because I pay attention and I do a lot of research and I know the reality of what's going on. So when I hear them talking about studies show, experts say, like all these different things,
all the evidence says.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, the evidence that you're looking at, that you were shown by probably your
they never cite it. They always talk about all the evidence and studies they have, but they never tell me where to find them. And they never go through it.
Hold on, you mentioned something I want to ask you about. The teacher's handbook. That person, Sky, the mother, she said that she read the handbook that they're getting. Where's that coming from? Who's creating that?
Mostly NGOs. So these are like, there's a ton of nonprofit organizations that all are lefty. So you could run Social Justice Inc. non-for-profit, and then you lend your services out to whatever schools that you do. And then you've got a book like Ibram Kendi does this, and he gets a bunch of books bought. But there's a bunch of NGOs all competing in this space, and that's where they're getting it.
Yeah,
and
that's where
a lot of the diversity plans and a lot of the surveys. I think it's weird that they're surveying all these kids on sexual orientation, gender identity, younger and younger. It's bizarre.
Wasn't Garland's daughter the attorney general?
I think it's his son-in-law.
Right. It's his daughter's husband runs like the programs that would
the learning management system.
I thought it was Panorama.
Maybe that sounds right.
Yeah, but it's like, it's content that to train, people in education.
And that's surveys. My sister's talking about them, and she's sending me all the time, and she's pissed.
Follow the money. And that's where James is absolutely right. Like the critical race theory is 100% targeted education because of this reason, for the reason to access the kids and also the money. There's a lot
and you've got taxpayer money. Like if this coming from a private school, I guess, you gotta let them do what they're gonna do. But if this is a public school, you've got a ton of money getting funneled out to these very, very the extreme position NGOs. These aren't your average place.
I can't release who this was I was talking to, but somebody who does live events like us actually got in touch with Ibram X. Kendi's people.
Oh.
And they responded. And do you know how much he's asking for these days?
50 grand.
30.
30 grand.
30 for an hour and a half. 30 for an hour, 30 for an hour and a half. No questions, no live stream.
Wow.
Brian and I kind of owned him on the
we may be the
portion.
We may be the reason why he doesn't do Q&A anymore.
But 30,000 for an hour.
You got to tell me about it though. I want to know the details. What happened?
So we go to this. Sean's like, "Hey, Ibram X. Kendi's at University of Wisconsin Milwaukee in last September," and he's like, "We got to go." And I'm like,
tickets are like $6.
And he goes, "Yes, I already got tickets." And he's like, "All right, we got to get there early, sit in the front row." So we do all this stuff, wait in line and do it. And I'm like, "Look, there's no way he's going to ask Q&A." But I had a question ready for Q&A.
Yeah, we talked to James Lindsay the night before.
And there was
a
question that I really, really wanted to ask too. And it was on the top of our minds. So we get in the front row, and then sure enough, he's $20,000 speech. After a half an hour, he stops and takes Q&A. And Sean literally pushes me up out of the chair to the microphone. And I'm like kind of looking around. And
I thought they were going to rush the stage. Normally people are like,
nobody did.
You're the first one.
I'm
the only one at that point. So, and I pushed them up there. I'm like, good luck.
And the microphone's not even there yet. So I'm kind of standing, everyone's looking. And so I get there. I'm like, hey, I was like, Dr. Kendi, I've read your books and I've listened to your podcast, which is true. So he probably thinks he's getting a soft question. I said, so if I understand your arguments right, you believe that anti-racism, like the policy is decided whether it's racist based on its impact. So if a speed limit has more Black people getting pulled over, then it's a racist speed limit. So by this definition, wouldn't vaccine mandates be a racist policy because there's disproportionately affect Black people?
Oh man, what did he say?
There's this big silence, right? Washes over the crowd.
His own audience was like,
It's a good question, though.
It's a good
question.
And there's a few people in the audience that are,
they were like,
that. And that's an interesting question. And there's this long pause, and he goes, well, a couple of things. He goes, I'm not sure if it's actually black people that are less vaccinated. I think it's white conservatives, rural white conservatives that are less vaccinated for one. He goes, but if that's not true, he goes, if it is the other way, he goes, I think it's because they don't have access to the vaccines.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's racist because of not enough vaccine access.
Oh, because of the access, not
because
of the
black people don't have access to the vaccine.
And it was like such a good opportunity for him to stand on principles and be like,
and say, yes.
You're absolutely right.
Disparity, it is.
Yeah, Black Americans are less trustworthy of the vaccine. I mean, the stats show that more white people were taking it, and these policies were going to literally end up in segregation if they can't go into restaurants,
or it would discriminate against black people at the workplace.
And the workplace, you'd lose your job, right? Like exactly. And it's like
he had a chance to stand on principle and said, "Yep, any law." Regardless of what it is, with the racial impact, at least you'd be consistent.
I would have bought his book. I would have bought his book and then asked him to sign it and say, look, I came here to own you, but you stood on principle, sir. Please sign this book. Yeah. Like he just completely waffled. I was like, well, that's a grift.
That reminds, so I was going to mention this earlier. We were talking about Hollywood a little bit, and how it feels like a lot of them, most of them, and politics are in this club that meet and say what are our talking points, what are this and that, and it feels like he's in that club. So he couldn't go against the narrative, because if he were to stand on principle,
and
they would have been like, what are you doing?
Once the narrative got started on Twitter, we took that video. They immediately pulled it down, claiming the private media policy.
Yeah, we got kicked off of Twitter for posting it. Well,
did you?
They locked us out.
We put it up. We put it up.
Deleted it?
Yeah, they deleted it. But it already kind of got.
But we had to confirm. You have to go, like, it was already gone, but you have to agree.
Okay.
Yeah,
I've never gotten in trouble on Twitter. I'm surprised I haven't gotten in trouble on Twitter, because I can be rather spicy on Twitter. Twitter is my place of spiciness. But
you're very lucky.
Actually,
if your audience wants to see it, it's still up on our YouTube channel at MythInformed MKE. You can go and see it.
Down in the description below is actually their website where you can check out their live events, which I want to get into actually, because you have one coming up shortly. But also you can check out their Twitter channel and their YouTube channel. Definitely go follow these guys. So I always like to ask, and we talk about what's happening, right? That's what we've been doing. But I really want to focus on the path forward, and I want to hear what you guys think that looks like. Like, what is the correct way of moving forward against this tide of wokeism and practically a cult? I mean, it is a cult. Who am I kidding?
Yeah.
What do you guys think should be like step one and onward?
Well, I think that part of this comes from like every little bit of self-censorship that you might have decided to do that don't. Like, for example, I mean, just little things. I was on a plane, going to where I can't even remember where I was going, but I didn't wear the mask. But like that, sir, put on your mask. So I do for a bit, and then I just take it right off. Like, I didn't get kicked off the plane. I wore my mask maybe like 3 minutes on a 3-hour flight. Like those little things, like, no, I'm not going to do, like who would put it on? I wasn't going to get kicked off the plane, but I'm not going to sit there and try to do your 100% compliance. I'm not doing that. Like, so one, that self-censorship. Also, try to reduce that just a little bit, because it's like recycling. Your one can doesn't count, but all of our cans count. So those things start to add up. The other thing I would say is like any kind of parallel society or network, this is where you're not going to stop Bill Gates. You can't sit there and, take him, they're going to do what they're going to do. The WF is going to do what they're going to do, but you can find, your own organizations of people and kind of build parallel societies. The physicians groups are doing that. The AAPS is a new physicians organization. And if you're worried about your organizations being captured and engineer, create a new organization. Doesn't matter if it's 12 of your buddies and it's small, start it. Start there, like, and then let it get bigger. Like we need new parallel uncorrupted institutions, even if it starts as a Facebook group.
Yeah, I think there's two things. I don't know if you guys can hear that. I'm sorry. Can you hear that ding?
Can't hear it. No.
Okay, good. Someone keeps texting and yeah.
It's just tinnitus that you might have gotten from a medical treatment.
Yeah. Well, I think there's two things. I think one thing to stop the polarization, I think we need to come together to have discussions. I think we need to see like the influencers to foster more discussion, even though, you know, like you can bring people on and their views can be absolutely insane, but you can kind of like, you know, respectfully disagree. So it's like one thing, like we have to come back together. We have to start looking at the things and finding common ground on the areas that we should be focusing on in the conversations we should be having. That's the first thing. And then secondly, like the negativity on social media, I think we need people just need, I get like the own cell and I get like the drama cells and stuff, but I think there's a better way to do it. I think we can promote, you know, good ideas that people have, even though, you know, like we may not necessarily agree with everything they say. I think we need to have more of a positive outlook and approach to social media. I think, you know, because too many times people get like, you know, he said this, she said that, or cancel this person, cancel that person. And I just think there's a better way to do it.
Yeah. We got to get people addicted to positivity instead of negativity. I actually recently, over the last week, I realized how negative my Twitter feed was. You know, and I say Twitter, I mean it's all of social media, but you know, a lot of times Twitter is a place where, because I follow a lot of politicians, I follow a lot of you know, people like you guys and my fellow YouTubers in this space, you know, and everyone's doing that same kind of dance of, here's this clickbaity thing, you know, for you to come to my content, you know, and it's like always negative. And I was just like spiraling into this like negativity realm. And then I realized last week, I'm like, I got to take a step back. I need to realize that reality is amazing. Like, I love my life. I have an incredible wife.
Yeah.
She's amazing. And, you know, her smile, I mean, just seeing her smile, you know, I'm like, all I have to do is step away from the internet and go look at her smile. And I'm like, I feel better already. But,
yeah,
you know, I got to do that more often. I got to play guitar more often. I got to do me, and then try to project that positivity out there. More so. I mean, it's difficult because Twitter, as I said, I'm rather spicy on Twitter. So
yeah, and I think you could keep your spice, but I think too, like a lot of times when we do look for content, what I always try to like, for me, like what I'll have to remind myself, it's like, okay, yeah, crazy, this video is crazy, that video is crazy, or whatever. What are some of the people I know that I you know, agree with their messages? Like what are they saying? Like, how can we get the word out on that too? Like, I think we need to work together a little more on social media instead of always trying to pull people down. I know there's some people that can do it, you know, and you're hearing this like more. You're hearing it from Russell Brand. So he has his own version.
I love Russell Brand, man.
Yeah, he's and
awesome.
I'm just gonna I love what he's doing. I love that he's going against like the mainstream and it's counterculture and it's awesome. But I don't know if you've seen what he's doing with his events. Like he's doing meditation things.
Okay.
So like it's like a meditation thing for like the whole audience, and like he's selling out, and you know, he's got like 5,000 whatever. And his approach is like more the spiritual, holistic, which I'm totally fine. I'm totally fine if that's your thing, like whatever. But like there's these images of him like going around and like while people are doing this and stuff, and I'm like, ugh. If you ever want to look like a cult, you know what I mean? Like that's where I'm like, but it's good that his message is positive, and it's like, we need to come together. We need to, you know, take a break for some of the craziness and be able to laugh at it. And I think, you know, comedy, that's been like one of the biggest tragedies in the last 5 years, in my opinion. Like, comedy has just been ruined as a result. You know,
well,
like,
you know, and that reminds me, I was gonna mention this earlier. You know, these groups that love to be victims that are like, I'm oppressed, I'm victimized, and it's like, well, why? Or it's like, well, that comedian made fun of me, and it's like, that comedian made fun of me too. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like you're making it a big deal to be like targeted, where they target everyone. That's comedy. Comedy is, if you want to be normalized, if you want to be part of like reality and like say that you need to treat me equally. Well, all right. Well, guess what? Comedy makes fun of everything.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna identify as a zebra, more power to you.
Yeah.
But we're gonna make fun of you for it because that's ridiculous.
And you gotta be able to laugh at yourself. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it sucks. So tell me about this event that's coming up in a couple weeks.
Right. Go ahead.
So yeah, so on April 23rd, in Dallas, or rather Fort Worth, Texas. So it's not this Saturday, but the Saturday after. We're having a full day long event where we have a number of speakers, and it's almost 20, and we have 5 different panels that we do. And on all the panels, we're trying to get as much like diversity of thought as possible. So the ideal is to take somebody kind of from the progressive left, liberal left, center right, and kind of the new MAGA right. Like that's the ideal panel, but you can't always get it to do that. But there's always somebody from some other corner that's going to be posed, whether it's 2-on-2, 3-on-1, something like that. But it's really fun because we're talking about 5 different questions. One of them's can the 3-letter agencies be trusted? One's about the Great Reset. Can a man be born in a woman's body? Like what policies make sense for the midterms? Stuff like that. And the cool thing is everyone that comes, and the audience is kind of split, say 70-30. So you don't feel like a minority, no matter, what side you're on, and everybody there's coming to talk. So if you want to hear somebody who's like honest on the other side, that's not going to insult you, but yet give their point of view. And I mean, audience members, it's great. You get to meet a lot of these people, and being friends with people on the left, I think, is a good white pill, because, or on the opposite side, if you're on the left, on the right, because seeing these other people as the enemy, like often it's just, they just don't see the world the same way as you. And if you can actually befriend them, you don't have to agree. It's a huge white pill, because when the shit hits the fan, like you're going to need people on moderates on both sides, because otherwise the extremists get to control the day. So the event is awesome. It's just full of energy. There's 5 different panels, but the speakers for one panel are not the speakers for the other. So sometimes you can just be up against the wall and you have a 30-minute conversation, off to the side with Jack Posobiec or Blair White or whomever. Like that's been the really cool part of this, is just how much interaction people get. Like, it's not like going to say, I saw Jordan Peterson one time, and I even went to the VIP. It cost like $500, and I got to say hi and talk to him for 30 seconds. Like here, like when you come to the after party, you can talk to like your authors or YouTube creators for a lot longer than that. Like, you can hang out with them for an hour.
Yeah, and the speakers like it too, because they can obviously network with one another, but they can also meet their fans. It's really a tough thing, like when you're in the social space, to like meet people, that are in your network. So it's like one of those situations, and they're always fun. People always have a good time. Like the conversations are always great. Sometimes we get like really epic takes, but yeah, just kind of bringing people together. And there's been so many times I've heard, wow, I don't really agree with what that person says, but it was cool to like see them say it on.
And we take all the Q&A. So like anybody gets to ask a question. So sometimes, for example, we Destiny is going to be on two panels, but for the panels that he's not on, he'll go up and ask a question to the speakers that is. So you get a lot of interplay between creators, and again, you're allowed to ask questions. Like we're taking them there, and it's really cool that everybody does it. People behave, and it's a lot of fun. Like it's a long day. It's like 9 hours, but you don't feel tired at the end. You feel energized, and you go to the after party, and sometimes the after party.
Cool. I like this. I mean, conversation is huge, and I love the name of it here. Let me actually bring up your website. I've got it here. I just want to show everybody. It's called Better Discourse, and that really is huge, right? Better discourse. Like that's what we need. We need a way to talk to each other to realize that we're actually not that different. Right. We're not enemies. We are all human beings that deal with our own troubles in our own way, and all have our own unique troubles. And a lot of and you mentioned it a couple times, you know, they think what they're doing is morally correct.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they don't see it from a different angle, that it may not be actually morally correct, but their heart is in a good place. You know, you will not agree with what they're doing, but you know, that doesn't mean they're evil people. But this kind of conversation may help them realize a different perspective, which will maybe, see things a little differently, which is great. So if you guys want to check it out, it's called bitterdiscourseevent.com. It's very easy. You can get here from their website, which is actually in the description. You know, I'm going to add this in the description as well, just so it could be there so you guys can check it out. But please go check it out. I mean, if you're in the area, and why don't you, who's going to be on the different panel? You mentioned Destiny's going to be there.
Yeah, Blair White, James Lindsay, look at the panel. Carrie Smith, Lauren Southern, Libby Emmons from the Post Millennial, Nikki Klein from Battlestar Galactica, Colin Wright, Josh Slocum from Disaffected, Sean Fitzgerald, Actual Justice Warrior, Mike Harlow, Nuance Bro, Ben Burgess, Andrew from Don't Walk Run, Spectre, Lisa Reynolds, Savannah Hernandez, and Peter Coffin.
Wow, what a list.
And Justin Gibson. That's huge. Or AKA Jangles.
And if anyone knows Joe Rogan,
we want him to come.
His show is 3 days before. So he did his 420 show. He had to cancel it because of COVID. I don't know if you guys remember, but it was supposed to be in Canada. And Canada was like, no, you can't come here without your vaccine pass. So he said, fuck it, he canceled it. And he chose Fort Worth. So he's actually going to be at the arena in Fort Worth 3 days before. So if we could somehow get him to come just hang around the Fort Worth area for 3 days, it's cool.
I wonder how that theater is going to smell on a Joe Rogan show on 420.
I'm actually going. I got tickets. I'm really excited.
Okay. It'll probably smell really good.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's legal there, right? Is it legal? It's legal in Texas, isn't it? I don't remember. I have no idea. All these different states.
I was in Joe's studio once. That was an epic.
Yeah, it's pretty jealous.
Time. Yeah, that was when he was still on.
It was
YouTube.
the old studio.
Yeah, it was the old. It was the studio before this one. Yeah, it was really good.
My show actually started because of Joe Rogan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was on the Timcast show, and he was invited to do Rogan, but this was during COVID, and he drove his van. He converted this van, or had someone convert it for him, and he drove out there in April of 2020. And I was like, well, I'm just gonna keep doing the show, by myself. Like, whatever, I'll just do it. I'll host it. And he was like, yeah, okay, whatever. Here's the keys to the, whatever. Oh, the computer was just there, so I just sat down and I called it Atomcast, which is
that's awesome.
Well, it's actually shiny. Someone made me this board, and it's a UFO that says Atomcast on it. And isn't it great? Yeah, fan made that for me. It's fantastic. And he came back, and then some stuff happened later on in the year, and I was fired from the show. And but I continued my show. I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna do my show then. Whatever. I'd done a couple deep dives. I did a deep dive into Donald Trump, just all the way back to his grandfather, because it's an interesting story. It's man, that's an interesting story. I mean,
it wasn't Trump initially, right?
Trump, I thought were
Trump.
Well, that goes back to in Germany, but they actually kicked him out. Because he left without asking the government if he could leave to go to the gold rush. This is an 1890 or some I don't remember the exact year.
Okay.
And then he went back, and they were like, you weren't allowed to leave. You can leave. You can bounce out of here. And then he was like, well, fine, I'm gonna go back to America. And then he started selling horse burgers to gold miners because it was crazy. And he used that money to start a hotel, which he moved on a river. He took the whole hotel and put it on a river and floated it downstream, because the gold dried up, and then they moved it, and then suddenly it became like this hip spot, you know.
That is badass.
Yeah, it's a cool story, and you know, it's like the American dream. And then like the guy, he had his son, Trump's dad, and his grandfather died in the pandemic of 1918. So
wow.
Trump's old grandfather died in, like, I don't want to say the last whatever. I'm gonna be careful with my other words. The 1918 pandemic.
Sure.
And his father inherited the business at 9. So he was a 9-year-old in like 1918 and took over his father's business and started using government tax money to build homes after the Great Depression, and then after World War II. And he was just using because people were like, how do we bolster the economy? How do we, well, let's build homes for people. And like, so Trump's dad was doing that. And then that's how the Trump money became, that's how Trump got his money, basically.
Wow.
Yeah, it's an interesting story, but
it wasn't reality TV.
No. Yeah,
but that'd make a pretty good reality TV show when you're floating your hotel down the river. Like that'd be a pretty awesome episode.
Man, what a crazy life that guy had, selling horse burgers. I kid you not. That was because they would freeze, and they were like, "Well, can't let it go to waste." And it's like, all right. Anyway, I got a couple super chats. Let's get into it. Robert Wiles, I saw that you super chatted. YouTube is being funky today. I can't actually access my where the super chats are, and they delete them when I go live. I've actually tried a couple times to get to that area. I can't see them anymore. I saw that you super chatted me. I appreciate it. I'm assuming you told Diana to smile, and unfortunately I can't read anything else. But thank you for your support, mate. You always show up, and I do appreciate that. Young Pay says, "Hey guys." Hey, Young. Toxic Man Flu. Hey, what's up, Toxic Man Flu? How you doing, man? For $10, it says underwear model, YouTuber, President of the United States. Now that is an American success story. Crigler 2024. I don't know where people get this, that I was an underwear model.
Oh, you weren't?
Well, I did a lot of different modeling. I modeled for like 12 years.
Okay.
And I've done
hand modeling.
Well, it's worse because you know what my first print job was?
What?
Do you guys remember the Abercrombie and Fitch Quarterly magazine?
Oh yeah.
There was this controversy that because it was filled with naked models that were just like they
were naked?
Full on naked. Yeah. And that was my
maybe I don't remember this.
That was my first print job, and they got in trouble. People were like getting upset about it, and they were like, it's not selling clothes. It's literally just nude models. And
it's just porn at that point.
I was on the cover with Malin Ackerman and Jamie Dornan, who are now both famous. Well, Jamie, he was in 50 Shades of Grey. I don't know if he's an actor per se, but Malin is. She was in a bunch of different things. But I was naked on the cover with those two, and I'm like, but I never did underwear.
Yeah.
But I did do, I was. You can see my ass on the cover. It's pretty funny. So, but thank you, Toxic.
Is that going to come back and bite you in the ass, Adam?
No, I got a fantastic ass. There you go.
Fantastic.
Proud of that. Like, what are you gonna say? Like, I don't hide the fact that I was a model. It's like whatever.
Well, I don't think it. Like Kimberly Guilfoyle was modeled for Victoria's Secret for a while, and that didn't really hurt her.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, I don't see my thing swanging around. It's like I almost said it's tasteful. I mean, it is what it is. In one picture, the photographer Bruce Weber was he told me to take off her underwear, and I was like, I looked at her, and she just kind of smiled at me, and I was like, I'm gonna use my teeth, and she just like laughed, and he was like, all right, and I like take her underwear off with my teeth, and then I'm like biting them, and it's actually in the magazine. I see it over there, the corner.
Wow.
I still have the magazine. It's pretty funny. She was fantastic.
These are some epic stories. Holy shit.
So it's just interesting that a clothing company wanted to sell clothing by not showing any clothing.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Really
I was actually
business.
in the second second to last quarterly magazine that they did because they stopped doing it because of the trouble. They were getting in trouble for it.
But then they were advertising Krispy Kreme donuts with certain medical treatments too. So not everything goes together.
Well, and paying people to get it too.
No, that's true.
That's
true.
Insane. So, and they were using our money, by the way, all taxpayer funded.
Yeah,
I'm so happy to do that.
Georgie for 10 BGN. What is BGN? Is that Belgian? No, BGN. What currency is BGN? Do you guys know? I don't even know.
I have to Google it. Maybe chat has it.
Well, Georgie, thank you. It's Bulgarian. He actually says it here. East EU Bulgarian here.
So how much is it worth here?
It seems about $10 because it's the same color as Toxic Man Flues. So
there you go.
I'm not sure though. He says, "I love you, man, but we are all here in East Europe. We've been effed. You do not trust the war? I can send firsthand pics of dead kids killed by Putin." No, I never said I don't trust the war. I don't know where you're getting that information. I think it's horrible what's going on. But I do not trust the media anymore.
Right.
That's it. I don't trust what the media tells me. You know, when they go full on into like one side, I have to question that.
Yeah.
So it's not.
Also,
to use people's suffering is like a political pawn too. There are people that are clearly suffering. It must really suck to be there.
Yeah.
Like the last place you'd want to be is Mariupol right now. And but to have these people like live through it and then be used as pawns for somebody else's BS.
It's a terrible war, and yes, any human life is sad, and obviously the damage that's being done, like it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, did Putin not learn from our mistakes of trying to destroy a country and then rebuild it? But also too, like, I'm always sick of the US being pulled in. Like, when that's the weirdest thing, and I'm glad it's being talked about more now with 9/11, but when we were so gung-ho to go into Iraq in 2001, I was like, why
2003.
2003, yeah. Well, we went into Iraq 2003, but after 9/11, like, I understood like bombing the shit out of Afghanistan because of what they did to us. I totally like get that and like whatever. But then like going into Iraq doesn't make any sense for us to get involved in this. It's like, does it make sense for us? Why are we quiet on what China's doing to their own people? Like, that's a travesty. They're like starving them right now, and we're like, oh, that's fine. Just keep making our stuff. What?
Yeah. Did you hear those people howling out like that are locked in and they're just like screaming out of their apartment windows?
Yeah,
and it sounds like the souls of the damned. It's very eerie.
Sad.
It's true. It really is sad. Georgie actually super chats another 10 Bulgarian, says, "Do not use your Ukraine war as propaganda. My friends are dying and are dying in Mariupol and Kharkiv." Let me ask you, Georgie, I don't know if you're still here. When have I done that? I actually purposefully have not talked about it because I don't know what is going on there.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a subject that I've talked about. I've made reference to it and that I've seen horror from both sides. And that is true. That's it. That's all I got. You know, I'm not there. I don't, and as I said, I don't trust the media. So, and I do not use it as propaganda. I'm not pro Putin. No, of course not. I'm not pro Ukraine. I'm pro American because I'm American and I love America and I want America to be as strong as it can be. And then after that, I would love to help the world become as strong as it could be. Right. But, you know, that's just my position on it. But I've not once ever used it as propaganda. And I don't know why you would think that, nor even bring it up right now, because we weren't talking about it. The only time I referenced it was the fact that, you know, we have senators whose kids are on the board of gas companies in Ukraine, which is true. That's not false. It's true. It's proven.
Yep.
I think
and Zelensky was an actor.
Correct. Exactly.
It's true.
Which is true. And then that show was also a reality show or not a reality show. It was a political satire show that is true. So like
weirdly prophetic,
everything that I've said is absolutely true. I'm not like what you seem to be triggered because other people are doing that, but don't mistake me covering actual truth that I've seen as propaganda.
And you also see weird propaganda in that, like in Middleton, Wisconsin, which is a small town in central Wisconsin, the mustard museum is there. And they banned Russian mustard seeds. Like the Tolstoy and Dostoevsky are getting banned, like the Canadians wouldn't take the 16, 17-year-old, like that's what I'm saying. That's using people suffering in the Ukraine for other political. There's no point in doing any of that.
Yeah. I think it's an absolute travesty, the war, completely. I think it's a shame.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I think we always kind of forget to. So like we know some Russian Americans like who have family in Russia, and there's a lot of people in Russia that don't support the war. So it's like always weird, like vilifying people that are innocent.
Yeah, exactly.
This is how you end up with Japanese Americans, loyal Japanese Americans in Idaho relocation camps.
Intern camps.
Yeah. In 1942. I mean, this is how you get there. Like when you start doing it. So I don't like that direction.
Yeah. It just feels like some people are trying to normalize that purposefully
for the greater good. Yeah, that's what it's for. It's for the greater good.
They're gonna first it's Russia now, then it's gonna be people who don't accept trans ideology. I mean, I obviously went to an extreme there, but would it be that crazy in a couple of years that if it keeps going in the direction that it's going, like
it's already close. I mean, Abigail Schreier points out that the guy whose kid was suicidal. He's an autistic kid. He's a Muslim immigrant, and while he goes into the children's hospital, it's during COVID, so you can only have one parent there, not two, if any. And during his stay at the hospital, he either decided or was convinced that he was trans. And this is a very religious Muslim immigrant, so he contacts the lawyers like, well, what do I do? And that if he goes into that hospital, that children's hospital, and refers to him and misgenders him, you could get that's enough to get CPS. That's enough to maybe put a stay on your parental authority. So his lawyer said, what you should do is you go in there, you'll tell the doctors, you tell the people there, you'll make an appointment at the gender clinic, take him out and get out of the state ASAP. Thankfully, he was like a programmer, so they had enough money and they could do that. But that's how close you are.
Yeah. Midnight Shawarma Llama, it's a fantastic name, says, watch Sam Hyde Paradigm Shift 2070. He parodies TED Talks perfectly. Okay, I'll check it out. Deus Zod with a little super chat. Thank you. Robert Wilds, he says, I also told my sister change my trip date to Disney to February. It's my birthday month. It's their art festival. My niece Reese wants to see it. So I said, okay, be blessed. You also mentioned that you were deciding to do, it was your date to Disney, but you're changing from going to Disneyland to the art festival, which I appreciate because
vote with your wallet.
Vote with your wallet. I was going to say something more vulgar, but thank you. I'll go with that. Vote with your wallet. Natural Fork, thank you for that super chat. Didn't even say anything. Fantastic Mr. Knox with 15 Australian dollaroos says, listening to Georgie's super chat or anyone else in regards to the war between Ukraine and Russia, here's my advice. Get off mainstream media. You'll feel good. I don't support the war, and it's not my fight. Well said. Yep. Well said, Knox. We got a new member. Radio Freedom is a new member in chat. You know what that means. We got the member bell. That's right. The genuine Crigler Show member bell sent to me by the one and only Jason Dixon. Thank you for that, sir. And let me see those UFOs spinning. You know what? Let's spin this UFO. I got to say, guys, what a great conversation. And I feel like that is just the surface. I feel like we could have gone so much further, because you guys are very clearly in tune with the general landscape of what's going on. And that's why it's called Better Discourse, because you're aware of what's happening, so you could talk about it. Please go check these guys out. Follow them down below in the description. You can find their YouTube channel, their Twitter feed, and more importantly, their website, where you can find more information about them and how to get to Better Discourse, and definitely go support these guys. Anyway, yeah, you guys want to? Did I miss anything at all?
And there's a live stream. We understand, like, if the people are living across country and you can't make it, we do live stream the event, so it's worth checking that out if you can't make it. But if you can, it's a lot more fun in person.
Yeah, and nice. Adam, thanks for having us on, man. And yeah, just support alt tech, support conversation and independent creators. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just a reminder, Better Discourse 4 is the 4th one. That's cool. Yeah, well, my pleasure, guys. And it really was my pleasure. So thank you very much. And everyone else, I will be back tomorrow here on the Crigler Show. I've got, you love him, Quarter Black Garrett for 1/8 Wednesdays. I don't know what we're talking about tomorrow. I'm just kind of playing these shows more on the edge of my seat because it's good for my mental health. But I hope you guys have a wonderful day and hope you enjoyed the show. And I'll see you all next time. Good night, everybody.